From a roadster from the 1960s with a very unusual shape to one of the rare occasions Ford built a V12 powered car. In this video, we're taking a look at 10 rare Fords you've probably never seen. Starting off the list is the 1967 Ford Allegro II Roadster. Before this version, there was an earlier concept simply called the Allegro. And just to avoid any confusion, this Allegro has nothing to do with the Austin Allegro that showed up a few years later. Ford treated both versions as idea cars built on existing production platforms to test new features while still using familiar engine and drivetrain components. Unveiled at the Oklahoma State Fair in 1967, the Allegro II was an open two-seat roadster with storage space behind the seats. It was built on a 99-inch wheelbase and measured just under 170 inches long, sitting noticeably lower than the earlier fastback version. The car had a wraparound windshield that improved visibility and cut down on wind noise, along with wide oval tires and a wide stance. Inside, the seats were fixed in place, but the pedals could be adjusted instead. The steering system was designed to move, pivoting and sliding out of the way when entering or exiting the car, then returning to a preset driving position at the push of a button. It even had an early digital-style speedometer with illuminated numbers, which was a pretty advanced concept at the time. At number 2, we've got something most Mustang fans have probably never heard of, the 1979 Ford Mustang RSX. It first showed up at the 1981 Chicago Auto Show as a two-seat concept based on the production Mustang that debuted in 1979. Designed by the Italian studio Ghia, which Ford owned back then, the RSX was Ford's attempt to give the Mustang a more European look and feel. It used the same Fox body unibody as the regular Mustang, but the wheelbase was 6 inches shorter, giving it a tighter stance. What really made it stand out were the so-called all-glass doors. They looked like they were made entirely of glass, but they were actually finished in black plexiglass, giving the illusion of deep tinting. Power came from the 2.3-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, paired with a 4-speed manual driving the rear wheels, the same setup found in the production model. After touring the auto shows, it simply disappeared, and no one seems to know where it ended up. Maybe tucked away somewhere at Ford, maybe gone for good. Next up is something that really pushed the limits of aerodynamics in the early 80s, the 1983 Ford Probe 4. Ford unveiled it at the Detroit Auto Show in January 1983, and it immediately caught attention for having a drag coefficient of just 0.15, the lowest of any conventional 5-door vehicle in the world at the time. That's about the same as a jet fighter for perspective. The Probe 4 was the fourth in a series of aerodynamic research cars Ford had been working on since 1979. The idea was simple: see how far you could push a practical passenger car while still keeping it functional for everyday use. Unlike most aero concepts that looked like banana-shaped one-seaters, the Probe 4 had room for 4 passengers and luggage, a conventional powertrain, and all the usual comforts you'd expect in a regular car. On the outside, the car looked unlike anything else on the road at the time. It had fully shrouded wheels, flush glass, covered headlights, and even concealed windshield wipers. The radiator and air conditioning condenser were tucked in the rear of the car, leaving the front with a smooth, streamlined nose. Ford also added a full belly pan, a movable front air dam that adjusts automatically with speed, and flexible front fender skirts to guide airflow while still letting the wheels turn. Ford didn't just stop at surface styling. The Probe 4 used some clever engineering tricks to cut down drag. It had automatic vehicle attitude control, which lowered the car as it picked up speed. At city speeds, it rode about 6.5 inches off the road, but by 40 miles per hour, it dropped to just 4 inches, with the front air dam lowering another inch. The rear even lifted slightly to keep things balanced. The front suspension was redesigned to fit under the low hood, and the turbocharged 1.6-liter 4-cylinder engine was tilted 70 degrees to squeeze into the slim engine bay. The front seats were specially designed too, letting the car sit a little lower while keeping passengers comfortable with adjustable lumbar and thigh support. And of course, the tires were custom-made with an aerodynamic tread pattern and a narrow profile to reduce friction and help the airflow. All of these features added up to a car that was both unusual and practical. At a steady 55 miles per hour, it would need only 2.5 horsepower to keep moving. Car number 3 on the list is the 1981 Ford Shuttler. It was a small city car concept built by Ghia and based on the Fiesta, though its platform was shortened to a tiny 77-inch wheelbase. Despite its size, Ghia managed to make it look like a stylish little coupe. In Ford's own words, it was meant to be a futuristic commuter, a vision of tomorrow's two-passenger car, even smaller than the Fiesta. The design started with a typical Fiesta front end, but was reworked into something more modern and balanced. Aerodynamics played a big role too. The side windows sat flush with their frames, the mirrors were smoothly integrated, and even the door handles were recessed. A series of 20 holes punched into the hood was an unusual touch, but it certainly drew attention. Inside, there were only 2 seats, but the cabin felt surprisingly upscale. It was finished in gray and brown cloth with bright orange accents on the seats, dash, and doors. The dashboard had a clever sloping tray for storage, and the steering wheel had a unique single-spoke design with a circular cutout in the middle. The instruments were grouped in 4 round pods right on the steering column, and there was even a small center console between the seats for the power window switches, cigarette lighter, and a small armrest. At number 5, there's the 1985 Ford Ghia Urby, a small concept car with a pretty clever idea behind it. Built by Ghia for Ford and based on the Fiesta platform, the Urby was all about city driving. Even the name, short for urban, gives it away. It was meant to be compact, easy to park, and perfect for tight streets. The cabin was clever for a car this small. Seats could be adjusted for different needs, and there were plenty of little storage spots to make city driving and errands easier. Ford never put the Urby into production, but it showed they were already thinking ahead about small, efficient cars for city life. Now it's time for the car that looked like it jumped straight out of an 80s Hot Wheels set, the 1988 Ford Splash. The Splash has an interesting story. It started as a student project. In the summer of 1988, Jack Telnack, Ford's VP of Design, asked 4 students from Detroit's Center for Creative Studies to design a vehicle they'd want to use every day and on a summer weekend. The result was this all-season concept dune buggy. Ford liked it so much that they had Auto Dynamics Corporation build a full-size version on a front-engine platform, and it debuted in Ford's Auto Show truck exhibit in 1989. The Splash could adapt to different driving conditions. Its ride height and attitude were adjustable for smooth highway cruising or off-road fun, and the upper body panels, windows, roof, and rear hatch, could be removed for sunny days. It measured 143 inches long, 70 inches wide, with a 93-inch wheelbase, giving it that classic dune buggy stance. Inside, all 4 seats were covered in neoprene wetsuit material, a bold choice compared to the velour interiors of the time. Bright blue accents added a playful touch, while the rest of the cabin stayed practical, with grouped instruments and a simple dash layout. On the outside, the body featured a dramatic upswept step and a small rear spoiler. It rolled on 18-inch, 3-spoke alloy wheels with custom Goodyear tires and tiny dual-piston disc brakes more suited to motorcycles than cars. Next up is the 1990 Ford Bronco DM1, a concept SUV that tried to do it all. Comfortable enough for city streets, tough enough for off-road trails. It could seat 5 adults, and the rear seat even folded flat for extra cargo, with the hatch extending into the roof to make loading easier. The body was a mix of fiberglass and steel shaped to cut through the air, and the flush glass all around didn't just look cool, it gave great visibility. There was even a roll bar tucked between the inner and outer roof panels, keeping the lines clean without skimping on safety. Inside, the seats were 6-way adjustable, and Ford even threw in a satellite-based navigation system, which was pretty advanced for 1990. The instruments combined a traditional analog cluster with a smaller digital display below the windshield for speed, RPM, and time. Controls like lights, wipers, and the rear defroster were all within easy reach, keeping things driver-friendly. The Bronco DM1 has a story similar to the Ford Splash. It started as a student project. Derek Millsap, a recent graduate from the Art Center College of Design, worked with a team of students on the project as part of a Ford-sponsored program. Ford liked the concept enough to build a full-size version. The project took about 9 months, starting in 1986, showing what happens when fresh ideas from young designers get a chance to come to life. The DM1 measured 167 inches long, 73 inches wide, 68.5 inches tall, with a 100-inch wheelbase, but it packed a lot of clever thinking into a compact, capable package for both city and trail use. The next one on the list is another Bronco, in this case the 1992 Ford Boss Bronco. At its core, it was still a Bronco, meaning it had the muscle to tackle rough trails. Ford dressed it up with a bright Lone Star yellow paint that made it stand out. The front featured a one-piece grille with integrated fog lamps and cooling slots, while the hood showed off an integral power dome. The retractable roof came with flush side glass panels and arrow-shaped driving lights to cut down on wind resistance. Out back, a wraparound step bumper and heavy-duty trailer hitch made towing boats, campers, or trailers easy. Inside, the focus was on style and practicality. Mottled blue and black leather trim set a luxurious tone. Front bucket seats were multifunctional, and the rear bench folded down for extra cargo space. Under the hood, the Boss Bronco packed Ford's 5.0-liter EFI V8, paired with a smooth 4-speed overdrive transmission. The next car is the 1994 Ford Arioso, a sporty 4-seat coupe designed by Ghia. It was based on the Ford Mondeo and had a 2.6-liter V6, with the goal basically being to make a car that was both roomy and good-looking. What made it stand out was how it showed off its aluminum space frame as part of the design. Instead of hiding the structure, they made it a feature. The body panels were lightweight carbon fiber, so they could be swapped out if damaged, and it let the designers play around with shapes that wouldn't have been possible with regular steel or aluminum. The Arioso also had a retractable sunroof and rear window that slid neatly into a compartment behind the seats. Up front, it had a sharp, aggressive nose with a wide split oval intake and clear covers over the projector-style headlights. In the back, the taillights were bold red slashes up on the edges, with angled dual exhausts cutting through the body and giving it a low, purposeful look. The last car on the list might actually be, in my opinion, the one people are most likely to know. This car is the 1996 Ford IndiGo, one of the rare occasions Ford built a V12-powered road concept. It took racing technology from Indy cars and Formula One and made it usable on the street. There were two versions built, a show car for auto shows and a fully functional go car. The mid-engine layout gave it near-perfect weight balance, and in its first test, it already hit over 125 miles per hour. Engineers estimated it could go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 3.8 seconds, all while weighing just over a ton. Under the hood was a new 6.0-liter V12 engine, related to the Mondeo's V6. Despite the power, it delivered plenty of low-end torque. Most of it was available from just 1,000 RPM, and was surprisingly efficient, projected at 34 miles per gallon on the highway. The chassis was built from carbon fiber and aluminum honeycomb. It was super rigid, and the engine itself helped hold everything together. Both front and rear suspensions were taken straight from Indy cars, with pushrod-actuated shocks and double wishbones. Even the 6-speed sequential gearbox used racing-style controls right on the steering wheel. The IndiGo looked every bit as fast as it was. Its body had sweeping front and rear wings and exposed carbon fiber panels. Huge racing wheels with special tires completed the look, and wind tunnel testing showed the body and wings generated downforce to help it stick in corners. Inside, it felt like sitting in a race car built for the street. Carbon fiber trim, leather accents, deep bucket seats with 4-point harnesses, and an Indy-style instrument cluster made it feel like a proper racing cockpit. Safety wasn't forgotten either. The rigid frame, wide air intake ducts, and provision for airbags kept the driver and passenger protected, while Brembo brakes could stop it in just over 30 meters from 60 miles per hour. From the first design on a computer to a fully drivable car, it only took 6 months to bring the IndiGo to life. The information in this video was gathered from the sources shown on screen. As always, you can find the sources in the Google Doc linked in the description. I recommend checking them out for more details. If you enjoyed this video, there are a couple more Ford videos on screen you might like. One looks at the Ford Aurora, a rare station wagon from the 60s, and the other covers a pretty interesting project called the Seattleite 21. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.